Good morning. This is Bev, the host of the Bev D Show, doing a few little segments to get things kicked off again. I was on a little hiatus, busy with some other things, especially with thoughts in my mind. Caused me a little bit of a pause on the show, and I'm back. I'm here for the one listener in Ireland, or the 5 or 6 in Spain, or the several in the United States. So I'm back. And good morning. It is October 16th. Going to be Wednesday all day. I think I've got the right day of the week. And just starting to think about different things that I want to do with the show. I'm actually I write children's stories. I've self-published a couple of them, and I want to proceed with publishing more. Because one of the things I was faced with recently is, it's been a strange year. I've lost some very dear people in my life. They have passed away. And some quite distant people, maybe those that I went to school with or whatever, but you know, we're all here and nobody gets out alive. And I thought one of the worst things that could possibly be is if you had the opportunity to be on your deathbed and you were facing moving on to the next life, that you would think, oh gosh, all the things I didn't do in this one. And one of the things that's a little bit different about me is it's always been my little weird thing I was insecure about myself is I have on the right side of my neck a great big birthmark. And they call it a birthmark. It's very red. I am very like a pale ivory, and it shows up. Sometimes I don't think about it. I don't even remember that it's there. But I have early memories of my parents when I was a little girl worrying about me and life and how cruel it could be even in the early 60s, and the different things that they were trying to do to have it taken off. And when I was in my very early 20s, my dad passed away when I was 21. And I spent the next couple of years still living at home and working and such, but I was with my mom. And that caused a lot of conversations, very deep, intimate conversations that her and I would have. And we played a lot of that card game, Gin Rummy. And I found out a lot of things. And one of the stories that she told me was that I'm the youngest of 7. And my mom and dad made beautiful babies. Everybody, beautiful eyes, teeth, skin. Everybody was so pretty and very handsome. And when I came along, I had this red mark on my neck. And my mom told me that when they brought me to her, she screamed, she cried. And she was very upset. And what was this birthmark? You know, she was worried about me, not her vanity of producing a baby like this. And they shared with her that it was that these are where the actual outer skin, the color that most of us know, whether we are black, brown, white, ivory, whatever hues on the skin hemisphere, if you will, the whole scale, that it's almost like it's a blood vessel, and that it doesn't cover up, and that there were ways down the road that possibly I could have this covered up. Throughout the years, eventually what we did is we just found a cosmetic to put on it, and then even with that, I knew it was an imperfection. And I knew it was an imperfection because my parents were trying to cover it up to protect me. So we spent all this money on makeup, and my mom would put it on me every morning before school. And while it was an amazing makeup and covered up, it still was there. It still was there. So when you think about the imperfections that you may have and how you're trying to hide them or cover them up, it might be something in your personality that you're trying to cover up. It's always there. And I was in my early 30s and I had a baby, and I had her on my hip. I was actually doing something it was called some kind of laser. And it's actually where it's almost like a tattoo where they poke the skin and kind of bleach it white, if you will. And when it heals, at the risk of being disgusting, but when it heals like anything else. There becomes like a surface, like a scab, for the lack of a better word. I'm sure that goes really good with your Cheerios this morning. Point is, she grabbed it. She was worried. She was a little baby. She was worried about mommy's boo-boo, is what she called it. And it hurt. It hurt really, really bad. And I grabbed her hand, and I, I just said, no, don't touch, that kind of thing. And then got her busy with some toys, and then just went off and cried my eyes out because it hurt. And then I was questioning myself, what in the world was I doing? And it was that day that I had decided I wasn't going to do anything else with this. I wasn't going to cover it up. I wasn't going to put makeup on it. I wasn't going to be afraid to have short hair so that it cover it up. I had made that decision. And one of the things that I noticed once I did that is the reaction of people in the universe and looking at you, and however minor that might seem to some of you, because I know that there are many of us that maybe we don't have a limb. Maybe we are injured in such a way that we can't move the way we used to. This was mine. This was my little, if you will, my tiny little minute cross to bear. It causes people to look at you. And after that, it was a few years after that I started writing a book. It's called Especially Marked by God. Because the other thing that it did is it caused conversation. It caused people to ask me questions about what it was, did it hurt, children looking at me, worrying about it, pointing. You can't help it. It's very red. And it does look like it might be something that hurt. Full circle of this message of today is that one of the things that it did is it brought more humans into my life to have conversations with, however fleeting, however brief. But it was an ability to have these conversations and to write about it. And recently I've really been reflecting on all of the things that I've written that are in a big box, and this being one of them. And the message behind Especially Marked by God is that sometimes those imperfections that we're trying to hide or we're trying to cover up with makeup, not that I don't wear a full face of makeup every day. Please don't misunderstand. I do have my vanity and I love cosmetics like a crazy person. But I'm not trying to hide anything. It's like we put on a suit for work or dressing. It's like putting on clothing for my face. That's how I look at makeup. Because I prefer to do it. It's almost something like a hobby. I really enjoy putting cosmetics on. But the birthmark is waving her flag proudly. But you just never know what those imperfections might bring into your life. And while I was being teased in school and made fun of for having something I couldn't change, it caused me to, what can I do to get these kids to become a part of their life, to become not something to be made fun of, but to be, what can I learn about them? And one of the things it brought to surface is humor. And I found that masking and overcoming some of this weirdness that I felt when people were making fun of me or staring or what have you, I became and found ways to be funny and bring a smile to their day and help them to laugh about life and themselves and not to take themselves so seriously. Because if there's anybody that took themselves too seriously, and I still pause and I still fight it sometimes, is me. So as we look at these days when we never know when it's going to be our last one, just think about the people out there that possibly your imperfection or your weakness could actually help somebody else, could actually make a difference in their life. I have I love Facebook. It's connected me with a lot of friends, but I'm noticing a lot of strange things coming through. And I'm starting to not like Facebook and the things that are coming through because they're odd and weird. But in between all that and the weirdness that's coming through and some of these things are these beautiful messages from my friends. And, all the memes that help us. And however corny or ridiculous some people might think those are, you just never know when you're helping somebody. So my message today, as simple and corny as it sounds, is, look around you, be aware, embrace your imperfection, because you never know when it could help someone else. And I just really felt compelled. I've written stories about this to help kids out with bullying and things like that. There's actually going to be a new segment coming up where I'll be doing like a children's story time in the evening so kids can listen to some of these books that I've written, because again, I don't want them to remain in a box on a shelf unpublished. So it's something that I've always been very protective over of how do I go about publishing them. I've actually reached out. Did a little bit of that when I lived in Chicago and my kids were babies and they would take naps and I would send out little, transcripts of my books and get rejected and rejected and rejected. And I lean into the old J.K. Rowling and how often she was rejected. It's hard to promote yourself and think that you have something good and worth it that's out there. But I decided when I train salespeople, I say I know a 100% way that it won't work, and that is if you don't even try. So I'm saying give it a go, try, be aware. I'm not saying jump out there and start talking to everybody, but just start embracing and look around you at some of the pain that is in this world because we become absorbed in ourselves. Don't surround yourself with yourself. Be careful and be aware of, I don't care what you look like. I don't care how big or small or tall or whatever it is. Be aware of your surroundings, embrace your imperfections, and move forward. And find your best you. And pray about the part that makes you most insecure. And I put that out to the universe because I felt compelled to talk about it today. It was really strange when I was titling the show. I kept thinking about, I want to talk about this and I want to talk about that. So I'm back, and I want to thank the listener that sent me the message that said, follow your sign, follow your mantra. You better never, ever give up. So I'm not. So I wish you a wonderful day. I'm not giving up. I'm back. Brushed myself off. Dusted off the little flecks of dust. Looked up at the sky and said, hey, thank you. Thank you. So I'm very grateful today. It is October 16th. My name is Bev. This is the Bev D Show. If you're listening, you think this might help somebody, go ahead, share it. It's okay with me. I don't mind. I gave you my heart. If you're thinking nobody loves you today, I do. And again, if it's something positive and you're afraid to do it anyways. We call that courage. Have a wonderful day. Bye.